To be honest, like, I gotta give myself some credit. It was certainly not a disaster. I did some good stuff, you know? Hello there and welcome back to Diary of a Drama Teacher. My name is Carly and I'm a pre-service drama and music teacher. I want to talk today about my first prac because there was such a big lead up for such a long time and I was so nervous about it, and now it's done and I feel like I want to talk about it. I want to share my experience. I want to hear other people's experiences. I will admit it was a little different than I had expected. I'm not really sure really what I expected going in. I was very overwhelmed. It was hard, I'm not gonna lie. It was exhausting, mentally challenging, but I think I've come out better on the other side. I think during prac, I was a lot harder on myself than I should have been, and I didn't feel like I was in a very good place. But at the end of prac, I kind of was like, oh, actually, I am better than I think I am, so I need to give myself a little bit of credit. So for my prac was a public school, and I was with the head of the arts who didn't teach many classes. It's also just a bizarre timing to be there, I think, in that there was exams and also the two classes that my mentor teacher taught. One of them was a year 11 and 12 class, so they were in exam prep, so I wasn't able to watch her teach them very much at all because they were preparing for their exams. So that did make it difficult, and with all the different observations that I had, like I said before, they were most of them preparing for exams, so it was hard for me to be able to observe. It was also interesting timing in that they had a lot of extracurricular arts things going on at the time, which was wonderful, and it was so fun because I got to be a part of a lot of it. And it also did mean it was hard with my mentor teacher being the head of arts. She was needed in meetings and she was needed elsewhere, and it meant sometimes that I couldn't find her or I had to find things to do myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. I honestly think I grew a lot from it. At first it was really daunting because going in there, I mean, you don't want to be annoying, you don't want to be like hanging around like a bad smell, but at the same time you want to be proactive. And when I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, it's really hard for me to be proactive because I don't want to step on people's toes or anything. And by the end I was able to take a lot more initiative for myself and organize observations for myself and like to go observe music classes and things like that. And I guess stepped up a lot more. At the start I was just kind of terrified and didn't know what I was meant to do, but I think that's also really normal. I think the thing that I had to remind myself throughout this is my first prac. I actually have no idea what I'm doing, and that's okay. And I think that was really an important learning curve for me. But the extracurricular was so fun. I got to be a part of an arts showcase and like different drama clubs. There was a music incursion where another school came and they did like a concert in the afternoon, and I got to operate the camera, and so that was really fun. I really enjoyed being a part of that, and like holy moly, the kids were so incredibly talented, and the musicianship, it was just amazing. And so that was really wonderful to see, and that kind of sparked another passion in me. In terms of my actual teaching, I did have a little bit of a mini meltdown early on with my lesson planning because I had to, I guess when you do assignments in your first year and you're doing lesson planning, you can just pick the content descriptor and you can do whatever kind of lesson you want. I think the thing that I struggled with was that the teacher is teaching a set thing at that point in time and you have to be able to fit into that. They've already given you, your content descriptor. I was working off a particular assessment piece of work that they were doing and preparing them for that. And so that made it really hard for me because I was just sitting there being like, okay, this is what my outcome is, but I don't know how to get to it. I don't know what activities I can do to be able to teach this in a way that is different. In particular, I was teaching them about how to write paragraphs, which typically the stuff I'm good at is the performing, and I have a long performance history and drama exercises and games. Like, I'm familiar with acting and just being out there and all of that, but it was actually really vulnerable for me to stand in front of a class, in front of a whiteboard, and go through content with them. And so that was really daunting for me at first. I think I got better at it as we went along. So with my like mini meltdown, it was just because I was overwhelmed at kind of how I had to fit into a little box. It wasn't just that I could come up with anything myself, it was that I had to achieve a particular standard. And in the end, my mentor teacher ended up saying that my lesson plans were awesome. And that's certainly not the thing that I need to be worrying about. So what was I worried about? I don't know. But the thing that I did find, and this leads me into some of my takeaways from prac, is the first one is it's okay to make mistakes. I think going into it, I knew that, but actually putting that into practice is different, and it's hard. And I think as well, being on my first prac, I wanted to impress people so badly. I wanted to do a good job. I knew that it was okay to mess up, and anything that happens in this time that I'm teaching is going to be a learning opportunity anyway, and everything I'm going to learn from, and that is so wonderful. But I, as a people pleaser and an overachiever, just wanted to do well so badly and impress my teacher, and so it meant I put this stupidly immense amount of pressure on myself for everything to go right. And in the end, I started to learn that, like, it's okay to make mistakes. You're learning, you don't know what you're doing, so just roll with it. I think as well, the biggest thing with making mistakes, or what's deemed as mistakes, is my mentor teacher said to me at the end that even a seasoned professional is going to make mistakes. They're going to have bad lessons where things don't go quite as they think, and they will come out of it going, wow, that was crap, I can't teach. And so to be able to put that pressure on myself when I've literally never done it before, and I don't have that knowledge that another teacher does, is just ridiculous. And I needed to just give myself some credit for the fact that I actually made it through all 4 of my lessons. Yes, there were some times where the timing was a little bit off and we ran out of time. Other times I was kind of able to pick up the pace or skip bits, and I think I just put a bit too much content in my lessons, if I'm honest. The other big thing for me was behavior management. I'm a very big believer in it should be classroom management over behavior management, but I'm just not quite there yet with the classroom management. And this leads me into my second point, which is it's your classroom. You're in control. And I think what is important about that is that you need to set the expectations from the start. And this is where I fell away a couple of times, particularly at the start, and it rolled on into the other lessons that I taught, in that if you don't set it up from the start with, you know, if we're standing in 2 lines outside and I ask you to come inside quietly, and if they come inside not quietly, then you send them out and do it again. I think it's important to be really clear with your expectations, even if you've had them a few times, to go over the expectations of, these are my expectations, you respect me, you respect your other colleagues, don't talk over the top of each other, things like that. I think it's important that you're very clear about that. And I think I also forgot a little bit how clear you have to be, and that even though I have assumed something or I've implied something, it's not the same as explicitly saying it to them. So I think that was a learning curve. I got a little bit disheartened as I went along in prac with my behavior management, as the class I had was quite unmotivated. A lot of them said to me that they flat out do not like drama, which was hard for me coming in as this like little drama geek, and I came in with, you know, stars in my eyes, and the first activity that I did with them, they all flat out refused to participate in, which made me feel a bit silly, but I just rolled with it. I'm the teacher, you know, we move on. I cut that activity and we moved on to something else. But I think it was a bit disheartening for me, especially when I expected to come in, and yes, I know that there's always going to be some students that aren't particularly engaged or don't love the subject. I mean, that was me in maths, but I just didn't expect it to be so many, and for them to be at times just flat out disrespectful. And I think what was most difficult for me is that I didn't know how to combat that. And once I started to lose them and they started talking over each other, they weren't listening to my instructions, I didn't know what to do. And that's okay, because it's my first prac, and nothing ever got so out of control that my mentor teacher had to step in. But she was of the belief that, you know, you have to learn yourself. I can't just step in all the time. You need to be able to think on your feet and readjust as necessary. And I think that was fine, but also there were moments where they were just being flat out disrespectful, and it was a bit upsetting that I wasn't being taken seriously, even though I was trying my best. But that's also comes down to expectations, and I am the teacher, and it's not about them not taking me seriously. They need to. They're here to learn, and I'm the teacher, and I'm going to help them teach. Which leads me to my third point, which is learning outcomes over likability. This one for me is particularly hard, because I knew coming into it that I didn't want everyone to be my best friend. I really want to be liked. I don't want my students to dislike me. I don't want my students to dislike coming to my class. So I think the thing I was reminded of at the end of my prac is that learning outcomes are more important than likability. The number one thing for them, and our goal as a teacher, is for them to learn, and that's what they are there to do. And it's going to be really hard, especially as a perfectionist and a people pleaser and an empath. I'm a huge empath, and so it really made me upset sometimes when I felt like I wasn't able to get any validation. So I need to find it other places, like through my colleagues and having lunch with colleagues and building relationships with them, because I also, you know, while I'll be building relationships with students, it's also really hard to do that in 4 lessons. It took, you know, my mentor teacher weeks and weeks to get them on her side. So for me to come in 4 lessons and then magically to have relationships with them is not really possible. So hopefully in some of my longer pracs that will be easier. Coming out of the experience, and I think the final chat that I had with my mentor teacher cleared a lot of things up for me. I think I was doubting a little bit, and I kind of felt like I was doing a bad job, but my mentor teacher did say to me that she was just being hard on me. She saw a lot of potential in me, and she knew that I could do more. The thing she did say to me that is the thing that I will need to work on going into my next prac and the pracs to go after that is that for me, it's not going to be about improving my lesson plans or anything like that. That's sorted. I've got that fine under control. So for me, it's going to be psychological and dealing with the whole likability thing. I think it also comes down to me being too scared to be firm, but I have to be firm. I know that I can do this deep down, but sometimes it doesn't look like it. So I guess that's kind of my first prac experience. I feel like it felt like a little bit of a downer on the end, but it wasn't. It was a really good experience. It was a really big learning curve. I'm glad it's happened. I'm glad that I've got that first one out of the way, and from here on in I can just get better and better. But to be honest, like, I gotta give myself some credit. Like, it was certainly not a disaster. I did some good stuff, you know? And I think I need to be more aware of that. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, or please subscribe to see more of my content. While you're here, head over to my Instagram, Diary of a Drama Teacher vlog, for more of my content and behind the scenes. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have also been on your first prac, let me know in the comments below if you've been on any of your pracs. How did it go? Did you have any similar experiences to me, or do you have any other tips? I would love to hear them. If you're watching this and it's your first prac coming up, please know that you are going to be great. It is scary, I know, I've been there, but know that you can do this and you got it. Believe in yourself, be prepared, be organized, and it's all gonna go great. So I'll see you soon.